Hey, we're Saints. Father Chris here. Welcome to our Crucifixional Life. I'm glad to have you beautiful people with us. Yesterday, we talked about the two ways that we can live our lives. One being according to the wickedness and sinners and scoffers, as we hear in Psalm 1, or someone whose delight is in the law of the Lord. And if you remember, you should watch yesterday if you didn't watch it. The one who delights in the law of the Lord is like a tree that's planted right next to a river. It's got an abundant supply of the river, the waters of life, and it prospers. And the wicked, however, shrivel up and die and are blown away by the wind. And the final verse of Psalm 1 says that the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. And so we decided, hopefully together, that we are supposed to pick the way of the law of the Lord. I mean, that's just kind of the no-brainer, because the wickedness leads to the shriveling up and death, whereas God's law leads to life. So the natural question, which is what we're going to address today, is, well, what is that law? How do we know what it is? Well, great question. I would encourage you, if you have not, to spend the time and diligently read the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis through Deuteronomy. You will notice in Genesis 1 through 50, there's a lot of stories about the patriarchs, and then Exodus begins with Moses, and then it gets into this long 3.5 book thing of law, right? But more importantly than just, and you should read it, it's great stuff, but more importantly than just, bludgeoning ourselves with that stuff, we've got to find what really is the heart of that law. And the heart of the law is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. And you know this because the Lord himself quotes this in the Gospels. They say to him, Lord, what's the great commandment? And he says, what? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. This is from Deuteronomy chapter 6, chapter 5. And when we hear that, initially the reaction is like, oh, we love God and we, have him in our hearts and we have a relationship and, we were on the beach walking and there were 2 sets of footprints and I love him and then there became one, and no, that's not what Deuteronomy says. To take that one verse, chapter 6, verse 5, and pluck it out of there without seeing what's going on in all of Deuteronomy, specifically chapter 6, you're going to miss the whole thing. Listen to what the very next verses say. Ready? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. And you shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Loving God, at least according to Holy Scripture, is not an emotional experience. Loving God is hearing his commandments and doing them, right? In other words, it's to say, God is saying to us when he preaches through Moses, look, you better love me. And the way you do that is to listen to the words that I give you, the commandments that I utter, because they are like that stream the tree that's planted next to the stream of water. They are life. They are a flowing source of life unto prosperity in all things, unto faith and salvation. Do them, right? Think about it like this. I have the most beautiful children in the world. And what I want from them to show me their love is to heed the commandments, the instructions, the teachings that I give them, right? I love when my girls come up and snuggle and hug me, Baba, I love you. That's awesome. But it is way more awesome when I say to either one of them, hey, can you do X or do Y? And they do it. Because all of my instruction and all of my teaching to them is unto their well-being, their growth, their betterment as human beings, as women, as young women who are warrior saints. I teach them through the instruction, the commandments that I give them, and they respect me and show me love when they do it. Do you understand? That's what God is saying here. And to love him with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength means to heed his word because it's unto life. And so the final question of the day is, all right, well, what is that commandment? Let's go back to Jesus in the Gospels. When they say to him, Lord, what's the great commandment? What does he respond? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength. And another is like it, which comes directly from the book of Leviticus, chapter 19. You must love your neighbor as yourself, right? So as I study Scripture more and more, I think all right, what is the business of Scripture? And it says very clearly, very simply, love God. All right, how do we love God? We love God by doing his commandments. All right, what are his commandments? They are to love the neighbor, to take care of that one in need, right? Even sometimes at the expense of our own needs and desires, right? And if we are able to do that, we are doing what we as warrior saints call living a crucifixional life. It's that simple. It's certainly not easy, as you know, but it is that simple that if we are willing to do God's commandments, meaning sacrifice my will in order to do his, which is to love the other person, particularly the one in need, baby, you're on the right path, right? And that's what we're all called to do. It is that simple. Don't get lost in it. So that in everything we do, we are constantly looking to serve other people, right? How to serve and love other people, particularly when they are suffering, whether, like all the real heavy stuff like homeless or with no food or no water or in hospitals, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff we hear in Matthew 25. They're in prisons, we visit. But also it comes down to spending time with a wife or a husband when they need it, hanging out with our children when we would rather just watch a game, or being kind, compassionate to a coworker who's irritating, or whatever it may be. There are so many ways, so many different ways that we can learn to serve other people. Spending time, that's a big one. And that makes me think, if you are really seriously committed to that, if you want to be able to put on your stuff, hashtag I am a warrior saint, visit our website. All right, warriorsaints.org, or you can click our link tree in the description below and get to the website. We have put together what we call the 6-part battle plan, right? Now, this is a plan that we just implemented in our own lives so that we could become better men and become warrior saints. And it just grew into something that was so effective, we said, let's get it out there for everybody. And the 6-part battle plan goes through the whole body. The body is a metaphor. Your mind, your heart, your lungs, your hands, your feet, all that kind of stuff. And it deals with our relationships with God, our relationships with other people, coworkers, spouses, marriage, that kind of thing, physical health. It's like it covers the full man, the full woman. The last part, the key to the whole thing, is your feet and how do they run to serve other people. So we've got a whole hardcore series of lectures and teachings that are pretty fun about serving the other. So if you want to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and do that by loving your brother and sister in need, get it. Get it. It'll help you. We love you. We will be back tomorrow. And as always, until then, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.